Okay, blonde-haired Egyptian mummies too, with some redhead, some other things, and I've got some exciting news for Afrocentrics. I have even, and I'll start the video with it. I misspoke just recently, a couple of days ago, in a video, and said that they had only found one black or one negroid mummy that had been done the Egyptian way, and that it was a fan bearer. I stand corrected. They have found two more, and one is more bulbous foreheaded, and the other one has the more pulled out lip area and more of a flattened nose too. And now they're doing the DNA test right now, okay, on them, but they've already dated them from whatever the stuff is in there off of doing the radiocarbon dating, and they date from just after AD. It seems like they're within the first century, so it doesn't go way back. But it's in a graveyard that they found that appears to be at the very end of the Roman Empire and things there, and they found two out of a group of like 40 that they have found, and that are, I mean, they look negroid. They have curly hair and it's tight and so on. And not only do they look kind of like a brownish yellow, like the mummies look that are darkened and it looks black, but I mean, they look black with the darkened on them. So, like that one that you always see real famously that has the flared nostrils on it. Well, a lot of these mummies they're finding, especially later and later, have flared nostrils. Even the ones that are definitive Caucasians with red hair and stuff. And people, say, well, look at their big. No, no, no. It's because they pull their brains out through their nostrils. In fact, quite often the thing that's in between your nostrils, they cut. And then they pull everything out, and then they smush your nose back together and try to make it look right and stuff. Because they actually go up in there and pop through the back of your nose and dig out your brains. Believe it or not, at the time they thought all your brain was in your heart, kind of, and your brain just helped do shit. They didn't quite have it figured out, because that's one of the things they didn't save. So you can tell that they had it all figured out except for a couple of important things. This picture here, pretty important too. It's one of the queens here, and what they've done, it's a special type of art. So let me show you this. Let me zoom in on it first, and it's in the co-op area. There we go. And if you'll look, what they've done is they've made it a little bit blotchy around through the top of it, a little bit more orange. Hopefully this shows up. A little bit more orange, a little golden in the front, a little more golden highlights kind of in the back. And what they've done here is they put red lines on it. Now they're limited to a color palette, so they can only do a couple of things. They can do this yellow, they can do a blend, they can do the dark lines, but they really can't get good in between colors that they want. And I'm sure they played with it a few times on rocks, let it dry, and try to match it and things like that. And this idea matched, and let me tell you why, because it's real important. You don't get to walk up to these statues like this. You were going to come in and stand way before the proliterate guy that's there, and you're going to be back at a distance. Well, this looks totally different once you get back 10 foot from it. You may even do it on the video where I popped it there, but let me see if I can show you what it looked like from up close and from a distance. If you just get 10 foot away, all of a sudden those lines blur, and I don't know if it really shows in this picture or not, but you can see how this was all light. Remember, this was light. Remember, in the front is light, and in here is a little lightened, right? But if you look now, even at this distance, this looks a little more bronzy, like the sun's glinting off of it, and this all looks uniform reddish orange, a strawberry color, not blonde with red lines at all. And they use that line effect. It's weird, but once you get far enough away, the lines are so thin you don't see them anymore. And so it gives them another color by just making the thin lines and walking away from that far. It's not something that you find in very many, if any, tomb artworks at all. But at this one point, someone had a snap idea to try to exactly match your color, and he went through all the trouble of figuring out, and yeah, putting these lines on it and setting it across the room, that's the color. How can I make that color? And he tried real hard but couldn't. Anyhow, so look, these ladies here have auburn here too. They've put red highlight into them. You can even see in this one with a lot of red highlight. But let's just look through some of these different artworks here. and we'll go through this. But what I'm showing you is blonde-haired Egyptians, and they know now natron and stuff doesn't change the people's hair at all. They've tried it. They've put it through all kinds of things and tried to get it to do it, and it doesn't. And then dead people's hair doesn't change either. This is blonde, and there's a lot of red and blonde mummies that are there, and in fact, there's red and blonde mummies from around the world. I might touch upon a little of that, but what we're looking at here, you know, and everybody says, "Oh, look, she's black. You can tell." No, she's got that stuff painted all over her body. And I hope if anybody that's listening ever gets dug up in the future, I hope you have a smile on your face like this. I think it's incredible that they put a smile on her afterwards. But another thing I want to show you is that's auburn and red hair. And you say, "Oh no, it's what you call it. It's henna." No, 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 it's not. They've tested it. They have a damn good idea of what they're doing, and it's not. Here's another picture of it. It's really the same. Here's another one. There's one of the famous or more mummies there that's here, and you can see her soft auburn hair, and that doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. Today's modern products, you might get it to work. It does not happen in reality. And let's look at this. Blonde hair and red-haired mummies. And they're famous. It's Yuya, Thuya, Hatshepsut, Amenhotep, Tutmosis IV, Ramses is a redhead, even the pre-dynastic ginger that's there. And I'll show you something about ginger. But look at all these blue-eyed scribes and things that are all through here. And of course, scribes are passed down as part of the family. They're the ones that weren't the kings, but the ones that had to do the nobleness. You know, you talk about important guys. How about Seti here? Now, Seti liked to do the yellow top, and they say he probably had blonde hair, but he's shaved whenever they get him. But that's not Negroid appearance, people. That's very George Washington-ish or whatever. It's just not there. Like that. Representations of him and his mummy. So let's continue. Oh, here, let me show you. This is one that's famous that everybody knows. It is a Nubian, right? And that's only from a couple of hundred BC. But now they've found two more that have that style of them. And they've also found one skull. It's out in the middle of where it looks like they fought the Nubians at. And they don't find anybody at all. They just find the skull, but the skull has some curly hair attached to it still. And so they found one of those too. And it dates way back, you know, it's like 2100. So way back when they first started having conflicts. In fact, there's a story of a huge conflict they had one time, and it's looked at as that may be it. But this right here is a reality picture. They have these blue inset eyes. Let me tell you something about this. If you ever get a chance to look at these in person or really up close, it's a piece of lapis lazuli, but it's got a clear place in it. And they actually chip it off, and then they go through the clear to where you can see the blue background and through the clear. And they have to find one with a little blemish in the center. So it makes the pupil. And then that little blemish in the center is what's centered, and they go around it, making a blue eye, and then the clear, and so it looks a lot like blue eyes. It's an incredible effect. Just before this, it was just a solid piece of lapis lazuli, like a little disc, you know, like something like some backgammon piece or something, just inset in the eyes. But sure enough, I mean, you can see it in all these. Here's the just shots over and over again. It's got across the room. They're blue, man, across the room. By the way, the statue is yew wood, and it used to be a lot lighter than this. It darkens, just like your fence does. You know, you buy a light tan fence, and after a while it turns from that tan fence into a dark brown fence. And so that's why you get things like, I don't know, let's bust something here real quick. Again, I've done this before, but here, Thuya. So Afrocentrics, Negrocentrics, whatever you want to call them, maybe if they're not Egypt, but they're going all Africa, yeah, who cares? Look how dark they made this. It's incredible. Then somebody's photoshopped this and pulled her snout all out and made her look even more black. Let's just let's go ahead and have fun with that here for a minute. Let's just do this. Let's go here to Queen Tiye. So you saw how dark she was right there. And I want to show you something if I can find a good detailed picture. Okay, everybody always says that's a fro. Okay, you can see it pretty good. That's not a fro. It's a thin veil mesh of silver meant to be a doily. And under her hat here is actually a pharaoh's headdress. And I know it looks kind of chocolatey dark, but somebody has darkened the hell out of this picture, because that's light blue and her eyes are white, not dark in there where it's supposed to be white at. They've gotten in here and lightened that spot up. This has been what they affectionately now call Negro shopped. But let's just see if right in front of you we can take it out of Negro shop. Well, all you do is take a picture like that and it lightens up about 3 or 4 shades, and then you take another reality picture of it and all of a sudden it really doesn't look like that anymore. But can you tell that's just a veil draped around with these little dangles on it? And that pharaoh hats don't grow that? Here in a minute I'll show you a scan of her, okay, which will help you out a little bit even more. But oh wait, let me lighten her one more stage. Bam. Okay, so now she gets even lighter. What happened to that picture before? Oh no, this is a real picture. The other picture before it, somebody had photoshopped the thing to where the skin was as dark as that, and that was black. But of course that's false. In fact, this is not totally lightened up correctly. You can still see some darkness in the whites of her eyes a little. But look at the CAT scan of this, a CT image. Do you see how right below her veil she actually has a pharaoh hat on and everything? You can see that. That's not no fro. Sorry, lost your fro. Also lost your Queen Tiye, who might even lighten up one more phase if you let somebody take a picture of her. Well, they really love that statue. Why do they? Okay, listen, I've got to do this. You see black people trying to do silly shit like this so they look like Egyptians, and people make fun of that whenever this is what the Nubians look like with their scarred faces. So let's do this. Again, sad that somebody would chocolate that thing out like that whenever we know what we're looking at. But here, let me show you a whitey doing something silly. This is just a guess here, some gay photographer made her believe she's some kind of forest nymph, dressed her up in a tree, and made her pose. Okay, so, stupidity is the world around. It really is. Nobody's trying to act perfect here. I'm just telling you that the Egyptians weren't black. That's the funerary mask of her mother. Look at that little nose. Well, Michael Jackson's got a little nose. Yes, it cost him $150,000 in 6 operations. Let's not go there. Look, it's Abe Lincoln. No, it's actually a pharaoh. That's Yuya. And let's continue. Ding, 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 ding. Oh, we're looking at Thuya. I'm sorry. So let's look at Thuya's mask. This is her death mask, like King Tut's. This is what it looks like. She all of a sudden doesn't look like that thing anymore. No, she doesn't. What does it look like? No, it doesn't look like. There's another picture of her. And where's the third version? Is that? That's Yuya. That's her mom. We just saw that a minute ago. That's the same one. There is one more picture of her as a separate mask. You can tell these are the same. Oh, that's her mom right here. Yeah, I'm really not going to go with the Negroid thing. Never. Sorry. Oh, another picture of her mom. Check this out. Now, this is telling. This is one of the last statues. You see how the nose, whenever it goes and meets there, how they've pinched behind it so it really looks real like nostrils do, instead of smoothing it out like they always do? Well, whenever you do this, about a half the time it seems like they break the whole nose off of it. And no, they don't keep it. They have to start all over. And I want you to know that that's a bitch. So they don't do that. Look at this funerary mask. Tell me that's not a Caucasian. You know, it's kind of odd, and people put out just funny shit and try to take a black person and put him in the middle of an Egyptian thing, and look, this is what that looks like, and you can tell it's a Negroid. And nowadays they have a lot of admixture in them, especially European admixture from Islamic slave trade. That really has nothing to do with what these people are back then. Hopefully people have sense to know that. And also the fact that the whole top third of Africa above the Sahara Desert was always Caucasian also, until the same admixture happened much, much later. But, scan. Well, we already saw her scan of her face, but Again, you saw the chocolate, and now you see this, and that's a real picture. So what are they doing? I don't know. Let's look at that again. What is this? Right. And what is that? I want to tell you something. Hopefully black girls are listening too. I had a guy on one of my posts. I threw it off there because I thought it was disgusting. But I had a guy on my post tell me that you can tell it's a black girl. Look at her mouth and she's frowning. She's a bitch. You know that's a black woman. I couldn't believe it. Dude, she's got to turn down corners of her mouth. People have. You're coming. You just go, look at her. She's a bitch. She's a black woman. She's about to start shaking her head and talking shit. And I can see that. I can. But of course, any black woman that would look like this is very heavily European crossed, and it wasn't happening at this time. And they sure as hell weren't kings of Egypt. So it's just not reality. Oh, I just did that to go see Thuya, didn't I? Let's go back to this Egyptian tomb thing here and show you that all around the world they found blue-eyed mummies all over Peru and stuff. Isn't that interesting? And all their primordial gods are also that way. By the way, Ramses III, blondish curly hair, kind of like a Greek statue, kind of got a Roman nose, kind of, yeah. Let's continue here. Blue-eyed gods in the period before the pharaohs, right there, lapis lazuli. It's at Nakata 2, the second place they started excavating. Now that's some silly shit right there. First of all, she's admixed like crazy, trying to make Nefertiti's head. Well, what's Nefertiti look like? She looks like that. What really looks like her? Something like that. That's Caucasian. There's no admix there. I'm not even going to look at that other picture was there. So you see all these black people. How do you get that? The Pharaoh and his wife from like the 4th dynasty. How do you get that? Right. So, I mean, seriously. Oh, that's the same couple. Okay. What are these? It's like a Hittite statue? Yeah, that's not even Egyptian. And, yeah, there he is, chocolate thuya. It's just hilarious. Some of these wigs are made out of real hair. A lot of them are made out of... Oh, look at the auburn hair and the light hair. Busted. Let's continue. What else have they found? There was something else down here a little lower, and I stopped to show you that. Here's what the scribes look like. Yeah, they got that cool blue eye thing. And see the dots in the back of the blue eyes and the crystals I was telling you about. Isn't that neat? Okay. Well, I'm starting to get on close to 20 minutes, but let me just tell you that that's more Egyptian than any black person on the planet. And that ancient gods all over the place in India, Peru, Sumeria, and in Egypt all had blue eyes. These were all Caucasian people. Sub-Saharan Africans were always in Sub-Sahara. And there is a photo. Ooh, here you go. There's that skull I was telling you about that they found. And it is a Negroid. And you can see the elongated face and the way the mouth sticks out. Much worse back then because they didn't have any admixture. That skull doesn't look like that skull. Even though that's a fake skull. That's Caucasian. That's Negroid. You see how the mouth part of it comes out. A little bit more. And it did so much more back then. Okay? And sure enough, there's some blonde Egyptians right there. That's the tomb of Mena. And don't tell me that's not blonde. They painted him so. Him and his wife. Now their ceremonial wig, black. What's the deal? I don't know. They had something about it, but you know, kind of neat. And you know, this kind of stuff is just silly shit. It really is. I mean, even though they tried to find one looked like it, his lips are twice as big as his. Even though they darkened this down with that Negro shop stuff, this ain't gonna work, man. You can find somebody that's been admixed and tries to do something with his hair. Doesn't matter what happened 3,500 years ago or more. King Tut used to have a couple of walking sticks, and each one of them when he held on to it, but was like he was choking one of his foes. Here's some Semites, and there's your black people. That's your Nubians. Certainly. Let's see here. There was one more. There's Blue-Eyed Scribe. Oh, King Tut's shoes. They have Nubians on them, so he can crush them with every step. If that'll help you any, you can look them up. King Tut sandals. Just look up King Tut sandals, and it'll show you. And they're going, he was black. Well, then why does he want to crush black so bad? By the way, here's what a North African person looks like. I know it's back up this way. It's, so, here's a couple of safety heads or extras that they have for each of the pharaohs that they work on and add to the extra stuff onto whenever they do the statues. This is a Caucasoid. There's a Negroid, and he is actually the grandson of Ramses III, okay? Had a Nubian wife, apparently, or Kushite. They haven't done enough genetics off of to tell. And this was a safety head for what her son looked like. So this would have been like 24th dynasty when this happens. Late 23rd, 24th dynasty. And then the 25th, the Nubians actually take over for 70 years even. And then then they get wiped out by Akkadians. And then after Akkadians, it's Persians. Persians get wiped out by Greeks. Greeks get wiped out by Romans, and I think we can go from there. So there are Negroids that come in to it, and Nubians at 25th dynasty, but 70 years and 25 dynasties later than the start of it, and it goes pre-dynastic, does not mean we started Egypt or had anything to do with it till much later, people. But y'all look into that skull, and I am very interested in the genetics that come out of it, and even the ones that are already shown to date to be right after AD in the 1st century, it's still going to be pretty important, especially to be able to know the admixture and the way that it works. I want to tell you something else here. We'll end it with this. This is a quote from Pizarro and skulls that he brought back. Quotation from Spanish Conquistador. The ruling class in the kingdom of Peru was fair-skinned with fair hair, about the color of ripe wheat. Most of the great lords and ladies looked like white Spaniards. In that country I met an Indian woman with her child, both so fair-skinned that they were hardly distinguishable from fair white men. Their countrymen called them children of the gods. This is what he brought back, and they still have them today. Blonde mummies, you can see in the National Museum of Anthropology at Lima, Peru, where Viracocha, who the Incas told Pizarro had found their civilization. And these people are all blonde-haired mummies that whenever they genetically check them out are Caucasians. And there's their god. By the way, they said their god was bearded and had blue eyes, and they can't grow beards. So whenever the Spaniards showed up, they kind of thought they were gods. Anyhow, guys, that's going to do it for this time. But yeah, blonde-haired, blue-eyed gods. And interesting. Like me, sub it. Appreciate y'all. Peace.